Be prepared by the propaganda specialists at the Post and elsewhere. Be prepared for a retconning of history. Don't forget the retcon, the Hollywood term for pretending that prior movies didn't even exist, right? They are going to rewrite the history of this thing to cover for the experts who destroyed your business based on models that could not have been more inaccurate. I bring this up because one of the evergreen topics in the last few weeks of my show has been, we did this and we caused this damage to small businesses that are requiring now $600 billion or more of aid to small businesses we're now destroying because we base them on models suggesting that millions of people could die. Ladies and gentlemen, information matters. There's no question this is a serious virus, especially for the elderly and the immunocompromised. There's no doubt. The question is not, is it serious, as I've said repeatedly. The question is, how serious is this? Because if it's as serious as the modelers said, then shutting down the economy may have been warranted. But that requires the modelers and the experts who told us how deadly this was, Joe, to be even close to accurate. Look at this story at The Blaze, which I had in yesterday's show notes. They were off by a little bit, and even Dr. Fauci's had to acknowledge that the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, were nowhere close to accurate. They initially predicted, 2 million deaths? Then 500,000? Then it went down to 100,000. Fauci admits previous projection of 100 to 240,000 coronavirus deaths was likely an overestimate. Aaron Conlon at The Blaze. You think? Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a desperate effort by people in the media, not the serious people. I'm talking about the jokers, the propagandists in the media to cover for this.
Right.
Because as I'm going to explain to you in another piece next, which is fantastic in the Wall Street Journal, I think it's by Joseph Sternberg. The left wanted these shutdowns. Just listen to their own words. They've wanted these shutdowns from the start. They've criticized Republican governors who don't shut. Kristi Noem in South Dakota, who's doing the right thing, saying we're not shutting down the whole state, is under ruthless attack right now. Why? Why did the left want these shutdowns? I'll get to that, the why, in a second in this next piece. But now the left wanted these shutdowns and they wanted the hysteria. And now that the hysteria models have not come to fruition and have been proven by the actual numbers to be wrong by exponential factors, now that they've been proven to be wrong, the left and their media allies are desperate to cover their tracks. This is one guy you need to follow on Twitter, this guy, Alex Berenson. He was a former New York Times, but he's not a left. I don't know his politics. He may be, I don't even know. I've never spoken to him. But he put up this tweet about Ohio, pointing out, interesting. He said, let's talk more about the magic of social distancing. Yesterday, the Ohio governor said it had reduced the state's projected peak daily cases from 62,000 to 1,600. Awesome. But let's take a closer look. This guy, Alex Berenson on Twitter, has been amazing because he's looking at the actual numbers, showing you how bad these models have been off, and he's using their own models and their own numbers. That's not good enough for the leftists in the media who wanted this shutdown. So, Joe, now they have to cover. So just to be clear, before I show you this tweet by this numbskull at the Washington Post, this guy's a joke, Philip Bump, really. I mean, one of the class clowns of even the Washington Post. But Bump running interference for the modelers. They're now trying to explain away to the American public why they've been bankrupted by decisions made by the government based on models that were wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, the models that predicted this 100,000 to 240,000 deaths and were off by, gosh, if you're going at the highest, hundreds of thousands, these models are completely, totally wrong. And the leftists are now claiming, it's because we implemented social distancing, Joe. Follow me. That's why that's not true. The models incorporated the social distancing concept and were still wrong. But leave it to the Washington Post. Democracy dies in the darkness, even though they are the darkness. Here's Philip Bump, class clown at the Washington Post, with this tweet. Again, running interference already. Look at this clown. A notable shift downward in projected deaths from coronavirus already being spun like we're as if we're not using their own numbers, Joe. As experts were wrong. They were. Instead of, hey, the thing experts said would drive down deaths might be driving down deaths. Nonsense. This is Bump using ex post facto reasoning. This guy is really not very bright. I mean, I could go on all day about some of the dopey stuff he tweets. It's classic. He swears he's smart, which is those are the worst kind of dopes, you know? They don't even know what they don't know. But Bump swears because he can't read. And then it's hysterical. He actually follows up that tweet with another statement by Dr. Birx, which he attempts to use as cover for what he just said, despite the fact that the models, if he actually read the stuff, had already incorporated social distancing and we're still wrong. Again, be prepared by the propaganda specialists at the Post and elsewhere. Be prepared for a retconning of history. Don't forget the retcon. The Hollywood term for pretending that prior movies didn't even exist, right? They are going to rewrite the history of this thing to cover for the experts who destroyed your business based on models that could not have been more inaccurate. They'll say, well, the social distancing did it. The models incorporated the social distancing, and we're still wrong. Can you read?
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.